Well, welcome. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Yeah, I
No, it's a
appreciate
great
it.
opportunity.
Well, I'm looking forward to this discussion because you have quite a bit of a resume, and it was kind of all over the place, in my opinion. But
It
I
is.
ultimately ended in real estate. But let's rewind. So, originally from Michigan,
Yes.
like born and raised.
Born and raised in Michigan. I've been in Arizona for 18 years now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I ran away a long time ago. I needed sunshine in my life. I left one time in 2015. My mom talked me into coming back closer to home, and I went to Chicago and I lasted 9 months and moved back to Arizona.
All because of the weather. Because
Um,
Chicago's beautiful.
I love Chicago. The pace of life was just a little fast.
Hmm.
I was still in the hospitality business. I was working in a restaurant for $40,000, living in the city.
Wow.
And that just didn't work out for my
That does
life
not
so
sound like
much.
the
No,
math.
it just didn't work out, thankfully. The universe brought me back to Arizona. So
And you used to own a sports club and bar
I
and
didn't own one. I worked at one in Detroit area.
okay.
Um, I went to college at Michigan State University. I ended up at Oakland University and graduated from there, and that's just in the Metro Detroit area. And I was working at a sports bar, finishing up school. And then after school, you need work experience. So the place I was working at was getting ready to expand, so I took a management
Oh,
position
nice.
after college. And I just loved Detroit at the time. I mean, going to every sporting event, concert, everything that Detroit had to offer.
Fun.
I was all over it. And we had good sports teams back then too. So not
Great
the
for that age
Lions.
range.
The Lions finally are good this year.
So this
But they
was a
were
good
never good
year.
before.
This was a good year.
Yeah.
But all the years prior is a lot of heartache.
A lot of heartache.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching the Cardinals here in Arizona.
Now, what
It's the
made you
same thing.
pick Arizona?
I was going to relocate to Florida with a best friend after college, and we couldn't agree on anything. She took a job in Detroit, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll go to Austin with another friend. And we went to Austin, and we couldn't get along for a weekend. So I went back to Michigan, and I was like, okay, how am I ever going to get out of here? And I had some friends from college out here, and I had family on both sides. My grandpa actually was born in Morenci and raised in Phoenix.
Oh,
So
cool.
I had some family out here. I had met a couple of them through the years, um, but didn't know them well. But I'm like, Mom, Dad, I'm going by myself. I'm like, if I have to call anybody, there's at least some family people that I can
Yeah.
call, some distant cousins, second cousins, and stuff. So
And what'd you start doing when you
yeah,
came out here?
I just jumped right back into the hospitality business, and started waiting tables. I'm like, that's the easiest entry. I left on a 2 week notice in Michigan, and came straight to Arizona, and I had a server job in a second. So
There's plenty of jobs here in that business.
yeah, I jumped right in. My first job was at PF Chang's at Fashion Square. So
Wow.
I'm like,
Huh.
PF Chang's was like the big thing in Michigan. And so when I came here, I was like, oh, they have a PF Chang's. Like, this is like the place to be. And then I didn't know that it actually originated here.
Yeah.
And so there were multiple locations, and they weren't as busy as the one in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up at Wally's down the street from here.
Another great spot.
Right after that, and I like working for the family owned places. The sports bar that I used to work at in Detroit was a family owned place. I just like how everybody feels like a regular, and it's kind of like waiting on family every day.
Yeah.
And so that kept me busy
Yeah.
during season. I would, you work really hard during season, and then I would take time off in the summer and go back and see my family and
Oh,
take like a month
nice.
off, but then I'd come back in the fall and have to start all over again.
Yeah. Did you
So
finally
there,
just get sick of the seasonality of it?
yeah. And everyone kept telling me, you should move into real estate. It's a and everybody in the restaurant comes in and they're like, oh my gosh, we love Arizona so much. Like,
Great source of
yeah,
business.
yeah. And so I thought that, I mean, I went to Chicago in between then. And when I came back from Chicago, that was when I was like, okay, I'm never leaving Arizona again. Everybody's been telling me to get my license for years. So I think it's finally time. So I got my license in 2017.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so 8 years ago, man. So did you start off and say, hey, I'm going to go solo on my own? Did you jump on a team? How'd the start go?
How did it go? I knew some realtors, and they all suggested, going to Keller Williams. They're like, Keller Williams has the training program that everybody wants. Learn the basics. The people that I knew in real estate here had been here for a long time. So that was their recommendation. They didn't want to take on anybody new. They had solo businesses. So I went to Keller Williams, and did their training. And then after a few months of not making any money, I went into commercial property management.
Oh,
So I had friends that were in that business, and they're like, oh, if you have a real estate license, you can come be a property manager. And I was like, okay, well, I'd like a paycheck. That'd be awesome. And I went and worked for a local commercial property management company. And after about 9 months of the low income assistant position, I was like, hey guys, I have a real estate license. Teach me to be a property manager so I can make the big bucks and make the commissions. And they said they were too busy to train anybody right now, and they just needed bodies. So I jumped back out and tried to join a team again. So started again.
How did that go?
It was fun for a little while, and the team just didn't work out. And of course, I ran out of money again. And I went back to the hospitality business and went back to event planning and, just kind of picking up gig work and things like that.
It's just hard starting off in this business.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, even loan officer, realtor, that's why I say, and even in the schools, they just don't teach us the skill sets to get out there and generate the leads.
Right. I was out there meeting the people, but it was really hard being in the hospitality business and making that conversion to the rest, real estate. If I was waiting tables or working events, I was talking to them about their event, and I was talking to them about life. I wasn't talking to them about buying or selling houses.
But if they were, they'd be like, well, do they want someone who's serving tables?
Absolutely.
Right? Just like when I was a personal trainer, I moved into mortgages. I had no experience. So I knew that all the clients, and I was in a high-end health club, they weren't going to use me. Right. At least for the first couple of years, right? Like they don't want the trainer working their finances.
Right.
So I had a hard time, but I was fortunate enough to get mentored by a top producer, and all I said was, hey, just so you know, I just get more practice if you send your business this way, but I would just promote the top producer. Right. Hey, JB's really good. He knows his stuff. He's been doing this for years. He would be the one that would handle your financing. I just get more practice. So if you need anything mortgage related, hey, let me know. So I had to go about it that way. And that's mostly when I teach new agents coming in. I'm like, you got to get on a team, and the right team.
Right.
But a team, because that's your fast pass to the knowledge of how to really do the business. Right. Because our schools don't teach us that. That's just how to get your license and how to pass the test.
Right. I also feel it's a lot of mindset work. So when I came back from Chicago, I started kind of doing a lot more personal development work and just trying to get my mind right about how to be an entrepreneur versus living on a paycheck. My parents were very, go get a job, go get a job, go get a job. They didn't like the commissioned work. And, like even when I would sell a house or do something, my mom was, don't spend all your money. So I was always in that constant like fear mode and scarcity mindset. And so it's really hard to operate a business out of fear and things as well.
Where'd you do your growth training?
I think the first thing that I did was Landmark, if you're familiar with Landmark. Yeah. I did Landmark, and I kind of did their whole curriculum. And
How long does that take?
That was a weekend program. It's the very first one, and it's very transformational, life-changing, one weekend, and it's under $1,000 for a weekend. I mean, it's totally worth it, because I was looking into like therapy. I'm like, I'm not traumatized. I don't really know what's wrong with me. I just know that there's a better life, and Landmark.
But that was a form of therapy.
It was.
Right.
Yeah, but I was like, why pay $200 an hour for a therapist when I could go for a weekend,
full immersion,
and just be in it? And because everyone kept saying it was transformational, I was like, okay, let's try it out.
What's some of the main things you took from it that you still remember today?
That I'm 100% accountable for my life.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more victim mindset. That was a big one. It was the team's fault I didn't have business. It was everyone else, the buyer, it was the seller, it was everybody else's fault but my own. So that was a big life changer.
Yeah. Blaming versus extreme ownership. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What else?
What else? I went back and forth. I was a solo agent. I went to a team. I did all the things. And I think COVID was really the breaking point of, there's no more hospitality business. There's no more event planning. I started.
No plan B.
There was no plan B. I was just starting a concierge business for Airbnb guests because in the event planning space, I saw all this need for, oh my gosh, there's so many bachelorette parties here. Oh, there's, because I was doing a ton of networking within the event space in city of Scottsdale. And
Oh, is this the party porter?
yeah, this is party porter.
Cool. Okay.
Your party
Creative.
porter, and I didn't want to do the bachelorette parties. I wanted to do more private chef in the house, massage therapist at the house, yoga in the backyard, those kind of events. And I was like, okay, I'll make everybody fall in love with Arizona, and then they'll all want to buy the house.
Heck yeah.
So I started that right before COVID, and then it shut down. I was working with one Airbnb owner, and I was getting the bachelorette parties, and they were, I would plan for them, and then they'd cancel half the stuff, so I wasn't making any money doing that really either. Because, oh, never mind, we don't want the private chef. We are just going to Toca Madera. Don't worry about that part of the plan. So then, like, my business kept kind of getting...
Commissions keep getting cut.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And then I did have some inquiries during COVID for that business, but I'm like, I don't want to be the one liable for sending COVID into the house or doing things like that. So Party Porter just kind of got put on the back burner, and I was like, okay, have a real estate license now for 4 years, and I haven't done anything with it. And hospitality is not plan B anymore. So like, what am I going to do? And so I kind of looked around for different teams and mentors, and Steve Valentine popped up. And I had an opportunity to meet with him, and I became his buyer's agent and joined his team back in 2020.
Wow.
And
great mentor.
Great mentor.
Great mentor. Yeah.
But it did take that, commission mind, because it was for a lower commission. It was getting mentoring. Was I willing to sacrifice, and you've got, hey, I can be 100% on my own, or I can be, I'm not going to say what I started at.
Lower percent.
It was a lower percent, but it was mentoring and work. And I knew that I had not been successful the prior 4 years.
Yeah.
And so it was really time to just suck it up and
I think a lot of people have a problem with that. They really have a hard time with the splits and not seeing the value of the split.
Right.
So whatever the number is, 10%, 60%, whatever I'm giving up, I'm not giving up. It's my investment into get, like you just said, the mentorship, the knowledge. I mean, how much would you have had to pay to get that kind of information from somebody? And they're giving out for free because it's not guaranteed that I'm going to have a closing here coming up soon. So they're literally giving me information, and I'm working to try to get a deal to then pay them back. Right. I don't think a lot of people look at that. They'd rather go, well, I'd rather have 100%. You're like, yeah, but 100% of zero is still zero. Right. And I had that mental game too. I was very resentful and angry many times with him. But then I had to, go back to the personal development work that I'd been doing and look at myself and go, okay, you didn't do it this last 4 years. Like you need to get in a better space mentally and accept this help. I mean, you're in the right place. You have somebody that wants to work with you and trusts you with their clients. So I had to do a lot of growth in that position as well, which I did 25 deals my first year with him. Wow. And half were mine and half were his. But I still had that, but it's not enough money, but it's not, And so it was just continuing to personally develop and grow myself. Yeah. Going into the next year and the next year and the next year. So Did you do more workshops or book reading or masterminds, or how did you then
I'm a personal development junkie. I definitely read a ton of books. Okay. Listen to a lot of podcasts. Hypnotherapists, therapists, life coaches. I've incorporated many tools into my development because I learned that as I run up against resistance, there's more work to be done. Yeah. Or healing to do.
That's where you learn.
Yeah, and that's where you learn. So, like I said, I think I started really leaning in on the personal development side of things versus my real estate business.
Well, it also, so for some, it's an escape. So I think someone over the weekend was saying, they called it a digestion monster. Yeah. You're trying to digest all this information, and you go to seminars and read books, and this podcast does, yet you're not the executioner. Right? And taking an execute. I'm not saying that's who you are, but some people use it as an escape. Like, oh, I'm going to go to this training. I'm going to do this. I'm like, but when you got back from the training, did you do one thing, or did you start executing those things? And sometimes having someone like a Steve in your life that's helping you, like, hold you accountable. Like, that's the missing piece, is always accountability. And whether it's self or a coach or a mentor that's saying, did you do those things that are going to move the needle in your business? That's sometimes the missing piece.
Yeah, we definitely had that conversation where he's like, stop reading, stop doing all, because I'm like, well, why aren't we doing this? Well, why aren't we doing that? You know, and we would go back and forth because I was just filling myself with too much knowledge
Mm.
and trying to improve my business. And we ended up parting ways just because I was like, I need somebody that needs more lead gen. He taught me a ton about investing. But him and myself were in totally different spaces in business. Like he has 100 rental properties. You know, like I'm just trying to work on getting a deal done so I can pay the bills and get my first one at some point.
Right.
You know, so I thought that going maybe to a different team that was more focused on traditional real estate would be the game changer, you know. So I left his team on totally great terms. Like we're still friends and I'm back in the in good graces and in his community now. But I went to a team that had Zillow leads.
Oh.
And because I was like, everybody's getting Zillow leads and they're killing it and they're doing this. And, I don't care if like I got used to getting the smaller percentage, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I'll go work for smaller percentages if I get Zillow leads. And then, that's a whole different lifestyle.
Well, it's funny because you said you went to a team to do traditional real estate, but the Zillow Leads is not traditional real estate. It's transactional real estate.
True. Very
But
true.
you discovered that,
Right?
obviously.
Yeah. I realized that I want a life as well and not be on call all the time. And I don't want Zillow to dictate my direction of my day. And I didn't want the team to dictate that either. So,
Well, yeah, I mean that model is just you're on call, right? Like
yeah.
someone goes to click the button and you
Yeah.
better hit the accept button or you lose the deal or
Yeah.
whatever.
And
And
it wasn't better, it wasn't any quality. There was no quality to my leads that I was
hmm
getting.
which is typical for internet. And whether it's
Yeah.
Zillow, Redfin, whoever, Realtor.com, like all of them are it's just internet. They're transactional.
Hmm.
Now, again, in the beginning, it's actually really good practice.
Hmm.
So when people come out of school and they jump on a team that are getting leads from somewhere, I'm like, dude, get it. Because
Yeah.
we work with a lot of those realtors and there's deals in there
Hmm.
because people do go to the internet first.
Right.
It's just better when it's a warm referral,
Right.
right? From the divorce client or the sphere or
Hmm.
from out of the hospitality or a previous coworker
Right.
or someone you met at the coffee shop or at a networking event. Like those are way better and higher converting. But sometimes I can't have those articulate, confident conversations with those people until I've gone through a lot of at bats with the scriptings and the practice and the stuff like through the Zillow. So
Right.
I get it. But when you're at that far along, it's like, man, I'd really want to be doing it the right way now.
Right. I've gone back to the ninja selling way, the referral based
I like
business.
that.
That was the first team I was on after the commercial property management was ninja selling based, Buffini based. And so right now, that's really how I'm rebuilding my business right now is going back to the basics. Every time I've left a team, I left a CRM. And so now, January this year, I finally invested in a CRM
Good for you.
and just making it more easy on myself and getting more systems in place and life is just getting easier. It hasn't like totally paid off, but it's a very interesting market right now.
Yeah. But it sounds
um,
like you're just following a simpler plan.
yeah, I'm just, redoing my foundations of my business so that it can outlast everything else that's
Hmm.
that's happened over the last few years.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do you generate business now? So wait, so we're to current, right? So now you're on your
Yeah.
own?
Well, there's a couple things that happened in between
Okay.
the Zillow team. I just want to share just because it's a big part of the journey.
Yeah.
When the market changed in June of 22, market kind of stopped. I went home and saw my family. And shortly after, a week after I left, my dad passed away. So that was
Oh.
totally unexpected. But it was funny because I had just been home and they told me dad had to have surgery. Do you want to be home? I can be. Real estate business isn't doing anything right now. Oh no, we'll do it after you leave. So I got back to Arizona on a Tuesday. My dad had surgery Friday and passed away Friday night. And we had just said, like, hey, do we know what to do? Like, my brother and I were both there. Do we know what to do? Oh, yeah, I just finished my will. It's in there on the table. Do you want to read it? And I was like, no, Dad, just ask it. He's only 69. So, dealt with that for a little bit. And then my mom, she was sick as well. She had non-alcoholic fatty liver that we'd known about for many years. And then after my dad passed, she just went downhill. She passed in July of 23.
So
So I had
sorry.
back to
Wow.
back
Yeah.
losses. And I can tell you real estate was not on the forefront during those
Right.
times.
Yeah.
And, I would feel bad because I was back in Michigan. My mom was kind of a hoarder and we had to clean out her house that we had been
Hmm.
threatening her for years. Mom, we're pulling up a dumpster when you die, right?
But now you and your brother had to deal with all
And my
that.
brother and I had to deal with all of it. And thankfully, I'm self employed, so I could stay, and I would talk to my friends in real estate back here and they're like, you're not missing anything. We're not selling.
Right.
Nothing's moving right now. It's a
Hmm.
really difficult market, so I just was present with my family and dealing with that. I ended up buying my brother out and keeping my childhood home in Michigan. And
You still have it now?
no, I sold it.
Okay.
I sold it last year. Um, I came back after my mom passed to Arizona and I'm like, man, I think of all the times I missed with my family because open houses and doing real estate business and doing it the traditional way. And I was like, do I really want to do this? I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
And I was struggling a bit in 24 with it because I'm like, how are people making money? Like, how are you live like this? And trying to rebuild a business. So last summer, I just kind of took a hiatus and I went to Europe for the first time.
Wow.
I went to Europe on a
Good for
solo
you.
trip by myself for 6
Okay.
weeks. And when I came back, I sold my childhood home. So that closed in September. And then I came back to Arizona and I was like, I think I can do this real estate thing, but it's going to take setting everything back up the right way and
Right.
doing it the right way. So it's doing the videos and getting more consistent and working in the CRM and just being in my business a lot more.
Hmm.
So,
Following the ninja and the Buffini kind of
yeah,
setup.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have quite the network. I mean, you've heard me. I've done a million things.
Yeah.
I
You
know a
gotta
ton
have
of
the
people.
connections. Yeah.
I've got the people, so it's just like reconnecting with people that I haven't really talked to in the last few years
Hmm.
because I've just been kind of MIA.
Yeah. So when
So
you took that trip, was that kind of a like a
it was my eat, pray, love.
yeah.
It was totally eat, pray, love. I'd never been overseas, and so it was great. I went
And
to
that's where you then
Italy.
figured out like this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I was like, I can do this. I can do real estate
How
because I
long were
do.
you gone?
I still love living here.
Yeah. How long were you gone?
6 weeks.
Killer.
Yeah, it started off as 2 weeks, and it was going to be Italy and Spain. And then everyone's like, oh, you have to go to Portugal. Portugal's the place to be. And I was like, okay, well, and I was just bartending to just make some cash last year, and I was like, okay, I can stay 4 weeks. We can do this.
Wait, did you bartend there?
No, I was bartending here.
Oh, I was
Like
like,
that's how
man,
I
you
was
might end up
making.
staying there.
No, no. That's all I was doing last year while I was trying to figure
Oh,
out if I
got it.
wanted to do this real estate thing or
Okay.
not. I was like, hospitality's, easy.
Hmm.
And it doesn't take mind
It's
work.
old hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy. Um, and then I was supposed to come home right before my birthday. I was supposed to come home June 27th. My birthday's the 29th. And I was like, it's 4th of July weekend in Arizona. Nobody's ever around. It's always hot. It's the worst. Like, why am I coming back? And I was like, well, where's Taylor Swift at? And she was in Amsterdam, or she was in Dublin on my birthday.
Wow.
And I've worked in Irish pubs, like in Michigan. I managed an Irish pub for
Yeah.
many years, and I've worked in Irish pubs here. And I was like, well, it's Ireland. I have to go.
Love
I
it.
have to go to Dublin now. And so I couldn't figure out how to buy tickets. And so I was looking at the map and I was like, okay, well, she's in Dublin, then she's in Amsterdam. And then I'm like, London's right there. So I changed my flight to come out of London and I booked myself Dublin, Amsterdam, and London the week before I left. And crazy story, um, the day that I left, I went by myself, took a carry on, and I'm at the airport, wheel up to the bar and talking to this woman. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going on my first trip by myself and carry on. I'm going to try to see Taylor Swift and just like spilling everything
Yeah.
to this woman. And she finally like stops me and we start talking. And she's like, okay, so I've got to tell you something. I'm the head roadie for Justin Timberlake and my mentee's on Taylor Swift's tour. And he owes me a favor. And so
Wow.
she's like, you're going to have to pay for the tickets, but I'll connect you with them and you're going to go to a show.
Killer.
And so I ended up seeing Taylor Swift in Amsterdam on the 4th of July.
Wow. Oh, that's so cool.
It was really cool.
I heard the abroad tickets aren't as expensive and egregious as they are stateside.
Right. And I don't know if it was because I had a connection, but I opened up the email to pay for the tickets and it said €450. And I was like, that's not bad, Like I know my friend paid $1,000 while I'm
Right.
here.
Yeah.
And then I looked and that was for both tickets. And I was like, oh man, 225 a piece? Like
Wow.
that's amazing.
That's what we had heard.
Yeah. And I had met a woman in Portugal on a food tour. She's Canadian, 50 years old, going through divorce, so like we connect, we were just chit chatty, and I went on to Dublin, she went on to Porto, and she texts me and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in the Amsterdam airport on my connector, waiting for my connector to go back to Canada. And I was like, I'm in the Dublin airport on my way to Amsterdam. I'm like, I have an extra Taylor Swift ticket. You totally have to stay. And so she stayed in
Wow.
Amsterdam, and like we just partied in Amsterdam. It
Oh,
was
how
great.
cool is that?
Yeah. So actually, then I was like, man, maybe I should have had a friend on my trip with me. But
It worked out.
it worked out. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah. And so then figured out, okay, I'm going to go all in on this real estate game. I'm coming back, sold the house,
Yep.
and now all in. What does your typical day look like now?
Well, I also got smart in my business and realized I shouldn't be the one working in my business all the time. So I hired a VA.
Okay. What are their job duties?
She she built my website, she built my funnels, posts all my content. Um, she writes all my content. Most of it. I give her topics. I have a content calendar I give her.
Okay.
Like, hey, I want to do a YouTube video every other Monday, and I want to do a blog every other Tuesday, and I want Wednesday to be tips, and so I have like a routine for her.
Great.
But in the meantime, she's working on websites and funnels and automations and all the things in the background,
Okay.
which has been a huge relief.
You don't need to be working on those things.
No, but they weren't getting done.
Right. Well, yeah.
Because I'm like, oh man, I probably need to go record this video. And then I spent half a day editing it, and then I posted it, and then a day went by and I didn't generate any new leads.
Mhm. Yep.
So I was getting in my own way. So like it was a investment I had to make for myself.
I like that.
If I wanted
It's
to.
an investment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had to. And then my VA, because I only hired her part-time, I did have her editing video for me, but it was taking her too long. And I'm like, there's too many other admin tasks. And so the community that I'm part of now, they were sharing a VA for video editing. And so they had an opening for that. So I pay a video editor VA as well.
Okay.
$175 a month to edit all my videos.
Nice. Unlimited?
I get 5 credits a week,
Okay.
which a reel is 1 credit, up to 10 minutes of raw videos, 3 to 5 credits.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's use it or lose it. So now I have to submit up to...
There's inherent accountability in there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have 5 credits to use a week. So
Okay.
it's either 5 to 10 minutes of raw video,
Yep.
or it's 5 reels that need to be edited.
Mm-hmm.
And it's holding me much more accountable. And then I just ship that off to my VA and schedule it in the content calendar.
Fantastic.
And then she's running my YouTube video or my YouTube channel and doing all my SEO. And
What's the average length of your YouTube stuff?
I've been trying to keep it under 10,
Yeah.
probably 6 to 7 minutes.
Okay. And mostly like informational or house tours, or what are you doing?
I could do better. It's mostly just like kind of, I like working with buyers because of this. This is who I am. Like it's
Okay.
it's a still pretty new channel. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, the about me and where
Right.
I work and why I love where I live.
Nice.
Type of things.
Have you thought about just doing area stuff like, hey, welcome to Peoria, or
I know,
welcome
I need to.
downtown Scottsdale,
It's on my
or
list.
welcome to
It's on
I
my
mean,
list of
that would
things. But it's like,
chew
there's
up
so
some
many
time.
things.
Yeah.
I've lived in Old Town most of my time in Arizona. I've been
Okay.
here 18 years.
Yeah.
And I've left. I've gone to Tempe. I've gone to Happy Valley. I've lived everywhere, and I always end up back in Old Town.
Old Town's fun.
Yeah, I've been Gady, McCormick, just anywhere along this Hayden corridor.
Yep.
I
Well, you vibe with the energy,
yeah
so you got to be in a high energy environment.
yeah.
So downtown is for sure energy
Yeah.
to feed off of.
I tried Central Phoenix. I lived there for a year, and I liked it, but it was still it was 8 years ago. It was still kind of
Mm-hmm.
working its way through some things. I was in Uptown, like
Yep.
Thomas and Central
Yeah.
area,
Yeah.
right by the CenturyLink building, and I loved that. But it was like, I wish I would have gone uptown. I was in Midtown, sorry. I was in Midtown. I wish I would have been uptown or downtown,
Mm-hmm.
because Midtown was not so much of anything
Mm-hmm.
8 years ago.
Like you said, you need that energy.
Yeah.
All right, so you got your VA doing those things. What does your typical day look like?
My typical day, I definitely do a bunch of networking. I try to do a couple networking events at least a week. I am trying
And are
to.
those like the chamber, or are those like
I've been
I like
part of an entrepreneur
specifically?
women group,
Okay.
entrepreneur women. I want to learn and get more around more financial planners and estate planners.
Hmm.
I think with the challenges I've been through the last few years with my parents and dealing with the home and losing parents and all of the things, I have a lot of questions around what did you guys do? What did you guys do? What did you guys do? So I'm kind of shifting my focus moving forward to really try to educate the Gen X population on their boomer parents because no one's having conversations. I
Right.
mean, I was 42 years old when I finally asked my dad, "Do we know what to do if you die?"
Mm.
You know,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
they never offered up that information. I've been too scared to ask. And I think a lot of us Gen Xers are in that mode of like worrying about we're always worried about their home. We're
Mm.
always worried about their health. We're always
Hmm.
worried about their finances. And I think, especially if the kids don't live in state, you know, Arizona laws, like what happens if the house doesn't have a beneficiary deed and what happens if they don't have a will? Like you have to go to probate. And like, I think it's just knowing how much is assisted living. A lot of people don't even realize how much assisted living costs.
Right.
So I think educating the Gen X population more about the next steps of the
Hmm.
inevitable.
Yep.
Like we're never prepared.
You
It's
can be
hard.
more prepared though.
You can be more prepared.
Yeah.
Um,
Because like you said, there's that group that's like, well, I may need to have to financially support my parents. They
mhm,
might have to move in with me.
right.
I might have to get them care, or they need to go somewhere. So there's that. Then there's the as I get older, okay, well then I might need some of those things. So do
Mhm,
I have enough in retirement to travel,
mhm,
to take care of my health, to fund my kids, to leave your kids, stuff, right? The legacy.
right.
Like, so it's all these things that we never really thought of early enough. Because if you can get in front of the crowd earlier,
Right.
you can change that farther out for them.
Right. Yeah,
I like that a
definitely.
lot.
I think that's an untapped market. Like, I don't want to. I have my senior designation, so like I feel like I know what to look for in a house. Hey, are there trip hazards? Hey, mom and dad's roof doesn't look great. Hey, their landscaping might need help.
Hmm.
And parents tell other people things that they won't tell their kids. You know, did you know that your mom like my brother was in Michigan, but I didn't know when my parents had procedures done. I didn't know what was going on with their house. I found out, when I cleaned out the house, I found a bunch of black mold. And my dad had been complaining about arthritis and having problems with his
Uh,
hands, but he was a mechanic his whole life,
yeah,
so we didn't think anything of it.
right.
But when we cleaned out the house, and now that I've learned about mold
Hmm.
in homes, I'm like, well, no wonder.
Yeah.
No wonder mom and dad were so sick
Hmm.
and they were achy and in a lot of pain. And they were young, they were in their 60s, and nobody was paying attention. And my brother wasn't pushing on it, and I wasn't there often enough to push on it.
Yeah.
But I think if I had, and that was my big why to get my real estate license, because I wanted to be able to have the freedom, the flexibility, and the finances to be able to spend more time with my family and take care of them in their
Hmm.
old age.
Yeah.
And so, like, losing both of them totally changed my whole why.
Right. Yeah.
So, I'm not living for them anymore.
Yeah.
So, I feel my duty is to educate the other Gen Xers
Hmm.
before this stuff happens to them.
Well, and that can honor their memory,
Hmm.
right? By doing all these things for the next generation,
Right.
putting out that information. Do you work with any attorneys now, like probate or anything, estate, things like that?
No, I'm rebuilding all my sources and all my vendor partners and
Yeah. Well, I would think if that's if
relationships and referral partners.
yeah,
Yeah.
like if that's the path you're going to go down, like you said, the retirement homes, the care homes.
Hmm.
Because if I was to bring, my parent there,
Hmm.
then I got to figure out their living situation. Maybe we're selling their house to put them in that home.
Right.
Well, then those people, those aides that are taking you around and touring the facilities with you, would be able to refer you the business,
Right.
right? Or for sure the probate, because they're the ones that write the wills and the estates and the trusts and stuff,
Right.
so they know what's going on.
I would like to tap into that way before that all of that happens.
Hmm.
I have a friend that owns a company that does in-home nursing and in-home
Yeah.
help.
Yep.
And she's like, by the time they get to us, it's too late.
Mm.
They've already fallen. They've
Hmm.
already gotten sick. They've already done all these things. Same thing with assisted living. Mom and dad have already had a decline in health. So I would like to get more on the front end of that and build relationships with the families prior.
So
And
is
it's
that
not
the
about
financial
it's
planners?
yeah, financial planners, estate planners,
Mm-hmm.
just more preparation work. It's a long game. I'm not trying to do quick sales. And honestly, what I've learned about investing, I would like to educate the families more on using the properties as investment properties
Yep.
and building wealth for their family versus it being a transaction.
Right. Smart. Well,
Yeah.
it's more of a planning, right?
Hmm.
Like, you know,
It'll
none
help.
of
I
us were in the
mean,
first home we ever bought.
right. Well, and maybe mom and dad's health starts to decline and the kids live out of state and want to move closer. There's an opportunity for a new buyer
Mm-hmm.
to relocate to Arizona
Yeah.
or vice versa. Maybe mom and dad decide to go closer to them,
Yeah.
and maybe their health, while their health is still good, not
Mm-hmm.
because their health has declined.
Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do to get in front of those people?
Network, network, network.
Okay.
Make the phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn.
Okay.
Make more videos.
Yeah. So are you going through and saying, hey, I'm going to go through in the Google, financial planner in this zip code or probate in this zip code and trust attorneys, and then you're just going to call those?
Maybe. I haven't figured that one quite out yet. I have a
Okay.
few like that I already know.
Oh, they're
So I would like
perfect.
to try to utilize them as a
Mm-hmm.
resource and just start doing local workshops for the people that I already know
There you go.
because they want to get in front of more people too. So maybe
Yeah.
we like co-sponsor happy
Mm-hmm.
hours. I went to an estate attorney's last week, an
Mm-hmm.
estate planning attorney. She had it at Goldie's down the street. Happy
Perfect.
hour, had a bunch of food. There
Yeah.
were only about 7 people there, but I mean that's all promotion. I
Well,
already
yeah,
it's
you're great
it's
at
how
that.
I know how to do the events. I know how to get out
Mm-hmm.
there and promote. So I will utilize my hospitality skills.
Yeah, that's a great
But then
idea.
partner up with like a financial planner, an
Mm-hmm.
estate planning attorney, things like that. So I think I have like at least a few in my network
Mm-hmm.
that I just need to reconnect with and
Just
build and
start.
start doing events.
Yeah. Because that you just play right to your strength of event planning.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
I like to do business if it's fun.
It makes it way easier.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm leaning more on the videos. Like the videos are fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out in the neighborhoods are fun to me. I'm never going to be a cold caller, lead gen.
Well,
um,
you're better just in front of people.
yeah,
So how do you just get it in front of more people? Video and just proactively face to face.
right.
Going to the events, door knocking, community events,
Hmm.
and then you play to your ultimate strength, which is host your own events.
Right. I think my biggest struggle and where I get in my way the most is thinking too big and too broad when I live right here. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
easy for me. I know Chris Collins. Like, hey Chris, can I host some events at
Right?
your restaurants?
Yes.
Like I already have the connection. But here's me going, well, I could go out to Surprise or Sun City or that's where a lot of old people, but
Mm.
there's so many, it's in my backyard. And I need
Yeah.
to not think so big.
Just get hyper
That's
local.
where I have to get hyper local
Mm-hmm.
on all my business
Okay.
because I think that's where I get kind of squirreled out is,
Mm-hmm.
hey, go find the investment property. Oh, well, where's the bad neighborhoods that have the turning
Nah.
that's turning on the house? Like I'm thinking too big. Like I really just want to narrow down my business and I want to work in my neighborhood.
Yes.
I don't want to
Yes.
drive all over town anymore either.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm all for referring out business too.
Mm-hmm.
I want to work smarter, not harder.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay within a 15, 20-mile radius of where you are already at. And there's plenty of places to do that here.
Right.
And there's plenty of professionals
Mhm.
that are here for you to just network with. And it doesn't take that many,
Right.
right?
I mean, I think we're the big destination point for anybody moving to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to live in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm.
So to not work in my backyard would just be silly because this
Yeah,
is
well,
where all
and enough
the
people want to work here. Like enough
Yeah.
people want to live in Scottsdale to have a great business for you,
right,
right? So it's not like everyone wants to be here, but enough people do.
right. Well, and I really connect with like the Midwest people. Like I go to a lot of my Michigan State game watches. We'll have 200 people there.
Awesome.
We were in the Elite Eight, so there were 200 people there. So I put out marketing materials, and so I'm now like the realtor in the group. Everyone knows I'm the realtor in the group
There you
because
go.
I always take tchotchkes and buy shots or donuts or coffee or things
Mhm.
for game watches and
Keep
things like
working
that.
the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
important. I think that, like you said, keeping your plan simple, your daily plan simple, but then also staying very local to you.
Hmm.
There's plenty of people here.
Yeah.
That one to many philosophy, right? So you meet the one probate person who has 10 to 20 cases going at a time,
Right.
and you just have to be in a good relationship with that person. And
Yeah.
then they know other people,
Right.
right? So you ask the probate attorney and say, hey, if you were ever to retire and people were still going to call you, who would you dish your business off to? They'll say,
Right.
oh, so-and-so. You're like, great, can you make an introduction for me to them? And now you got another person,
Right.
right? And so I just slowly build that one thing. And then they have all the estate and trust and referral partners. Hey, well, who do you use right now? Who do you refer for trust? Great. Can you make an introduction? Let's go to coffee. Let's go to lunch.
Yeah.
And you hang out with them. You're super personable.
Yeah.
It's just getting the introductions. And if you already have some that are already in your little sphere, go invite them for coffee this week.
Yeah. Yeah. I've decided, I even wrote it this morning, quality over quantity. So
Yeah.
tap into my network, go see my people.
And with the quality, the quantity will come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and my quality, I know that they have quantity behind them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you get in your own way too, like, oh, I don't want to bother them, type of thing too. And so I'm
But
like,
you're
why
actually
not?
helping them.
I know.
Yeah. You're actually helping them.
Absolutely. No, but like I said, and then back to the personal development mindset work, it's a never ending loop, so I do make sure that I take time for myself every day just to check myself and make sure that I'm not spinning out into the old ways of being
Yep.
and keep moving forward in my business.
Well, they say, what is it? The lessons will keep coming until they're learned.
Absolutely.
And so we're always going to be in personal development.
Absolutely. And
Well,
if
this
you're
has
not
been
learning,
fun.
you're growing.
Yes. And
Or
learners are
dying.
earners.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Earners are learners.
Exactly.
Well, cool. I'm so happy you came today. This has been fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not the typical background, I guess. Like you said, you're like,
Oh,
you've done a lot of things.
we have
And I'm
all
like, I
sorts.
have done a lot of things.
Yeah. We have all sorts.
Good.
This has been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.